So we're going to Ottawa right now. Matthew Barnaby joins us from SiriusXM, NHL's Power Play Radio. How you doing, Barney? Good morning.
I'm good. I'm actually in Toronto at an event, but I'll be back in Ottawa in a few days. I'm good, man.
You got a lot of exciting things going on with you, which we'll get to here in a minute, but I don't think you ever get tired. I know you don't ever get tired of talking about NHL stuff and the Babcock firing. So please, for Western Canada, can you break this down for our viewers and listeners out here? And did you see it coming? Was it the right move and so forth?
Yeah, I think it's the right move. And yes, I think we all saw it coming. Did we know it would be after the Vegas game? They actually played pretty well in that game. But what happens is when you play poorly for so long and then you play a good game and, you don't deserve the wins when you're playing poorly. And they probably deserved a better fate against Las Vegas. But it catches up to you. And then you get the X factor and a goaltender that might steal a game. But in the end, we knew it was coming. I didn't think it would be there. I thought he'd probably have 2 or 3 more games to try to right the ship. But essentially, they're on the road. They got blown out in Pittsburgh. They've been absolutely horrific defensively this whole year. And guys just aren't playing up to their potential. So this is a team that's supposed to contend for a Stanley Cup, not be battling with the middling teams in the National Hockey League. So playoffs is going to be a tough one to get to with the way that they've started. So it was probably a necessity that he was fired this early.
Who could coach this team to get them to where they want to go? Which the talent's there. So that's the Stanley Cup. Who could it be?
Well, obviously we knew that a guy like Sheldon Keefe that has won at every level before, and I know very well. I played with him a brief stint in Tampa Bay. He's very methodical. He's going to get that opportunity. It's guys buying in, and where Mike Babcock I think failed and does fail is just he's a very, very stubborn guy, and he doesn't like to change. He wants to right the ship his way, and I think dealing with today's athlete is much different than when he was in Detroit. This is a different athlete these days, and with the young kids, you have to learn a little give and take, and I don't think he has that in his DNA. And the stubbornness, the unwillingness to change things when they aren't going the right way. So Sheldon Keefe, I think, is a very good coach. I think the deck was probably stacked a little bit in his favor in the Marlies. I think they have probably a better team than most teams that are there. But the way that he's developed kids, I think his interaction with the younger athlete certainly is going to play into his hand. And they'll get a jolt right away. The systems are going to take a little bit of time in the way that he wants to play the game. But essentially, this is going to come down to the players buying in to what Sheldon Keefe is selling. And like I said, he's won at absolutely every level he's been at before. But we all knew when he stayed with the Marlies, if things went awry, that this certainly would be the move and he'd be the head coach.
Matt, when you get a change like this, you talk about, Mike Babcock being, a guy who's stubborn. And we've heard from Kelly, that guy who's, it's pretty exhausting being around that day in and day out. How much can the players breathe and relax? And when you have stars just go out and do their thing, how much is that going to change or affect the way guys like Marner and Matthews and Nylander and even down the lineup like Jason Spezza? How much is this going to affect these guys?
It'll help everyone. And again, Mike Babcock has always been great to me. I don't have a bad thing to say about Mike outside the hockey world because I've never been inside that locker room. All I can do is analyze from what I've seen on the ice and the interaction and knowing the ins and outs a little bit of that team. First, it's about the relationships, and there was a little bit of tension between some of those star players and Mike Babcock, namely Austin Matthews. There's also the contention between Dubas and Mike Babcock over some of the roster moves that he's made. So this is going to be a breath of fresh air for those guys. It's a reset button. I've played under guys that have got fired and new guys coming in. You see an automatic jolt. It's wiping the slate clean for those that, maybe didn't get enough ice time under Mike Babcock, maybe enough appreciation under Mike Babcock. But guys that are having underwhelming seasons, this is a reset button, and it starts, from tonight in Arizona. I think we're going to see a jolt right away, and like I said, I think this move not only is essential, but is going to do this team very good in the short term and in the long term.
Rems has one for you, but I just want to move ahead to Arizona. And, what we talked about, what you love about your new role is you can talk about 31 teams, right? You're not tied to one. That's what I love about this show. I can talk about 9 in the CFL. I'm not tied to one. So the Coyotes, their former owners from here, still lives here. So there's a lot of Coyotes fans in this town, and they're going nuts, Barney, in Phoenix, as you probably know, about the Coyotes. It's the best season since 2011 when they went to the conference final. I said I won't be a believer until after U.S. Thanksgiving. You continue this into January and you're in a playoff spot, I'll believe. Where are you on the Coyotes?
I'm a believer. And I in watching last year, their staple is the opposite of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Their staple is defense, and they play hard for each other. There's pushback every single night. The compete level is off the charts. And I played in Colorado under Rick Tocchet as an assistant coach, and he's very diligent. He's, again, the relationships, and you have coaches that you play for and coaches you'll go through the wall for. He's a coach you're going to go through the wall for. He's that great a person, that good a coach, and he cares about the players as much as anyone that I've ever played under. As for the team, they get good goaltending. Darcy Kemper has been lights out, got a 2-year extension this year. Really gives them a chance when there are breakdowns. Defensively, like I said, they play in 5-man units, and the only reason they didn't make it last year, guys, is they were decimated with injuries. There wasn't a day that went by that you weren't reading the injury report and saying, I can't believe another guy went down. And they're doing all this with Phil Kessel, who has, I believe, 3 goals through the quarter pole. So we know that's going to improve, but it's a dynamic offensive team with young guys, but their staple is defense, and I don't see this stopping.
One more from me. It is from both producer Clark and me. And by the way, Clark says your phone's slipping, so be careful. It's sliding.
Oh.
So just what's wrong with the Flames?
What's wrong with the Flames? Last year they got depth scoring absolutely everywhere. I had never seen going up, like when you do 31 teams, you're going through statistics all day long, just trying to find trends. And I was blown away with the depth scoring that they had, and everyone chipping in. Obviously, the back end, guys with career years, but it seemed like, everything went well for this team. And then when they had to deal with a little bit of adversity in the playoffs, they couldn't overcome that. And we're seeing a lot of the same things this year. I really believe that a shakeup is coming there really soon, and not through the coach. A lot of people ask, is Bill Peters on the hot seat? I don't think he is. I think this is going to be a player movement, someone getting moved to really shake up that team and get everyone's attention, because too many guys are having underwhelming years. And when your best players aren't your best players, as cliche as that is, they play 20 minutes a night. They get all the power play time. So if the Johnny Gaudreaus aren't your best player most nights, you're probably going to struggle. And he's been underwhelming, to say the least.
Kelly, last question.
Well, it was
back to Babs.
I was just going to ask have you seen the Mike Commodore tweets?
Of course he has.
What do you know the backstory on this? Like, I'm worried that this guy's going to go from ESPN to CNN soon, and we'll be reading that there's been some sort of like something really bad with, like, he doesn't seem like he's all there. What is wrong with this guy?
I love Mike Commodore. Man, do I love that guy. As a person, I never got to know him till I retired and started doing events, and been to Calgary a few times in events, and I've always seen him to be hanging out with Commie. Listen, his hatred towards Mike Babcock, and I have to appreciate it, but I agree. At some point, I feel like he's going to show up at Mike Babcock's door, and something bad could go wrong with Commie. So yes, CNN could be the next stop. There could be a prison cell in the near future for my good buddy with the red hair. It goes back to when he was in Detroit and he signed there, and he thought he was going to get an opportunity. And from his standpoint, and I only have one side of the story, is that he was promised he was going to get a chance to play, did not want to sign there because of his past relationship with Babcock. And from the time he was there, he just never got the opportunity, really ending his career. So I think that was, there's a lot of hard feelings. It's funny to watch when you're on the outside looking in, but one thing you have to say is he doesn't say it behind anyone's back. He comes straight at you and straight full bore. And I knew you couldn't get him on an interview today because he'd be way too banged up celebrating the firing and dismissal of Mr. Mike Babcock.
Barney, just lastly, I never asked you this the last time you were on. Arcola, we walk into the hall, and you and Andre Waugh are like, what can we get away with stories? What can we get away with? And the organizers are like, nothing will be worse than Mike Commodore last year. You can't say anything that'll be more offensive than this guy. What did you think about that night in Arcola? I thought it was awesome.
I thought it was great. You did an unbelievable job of emceeing, and again, we kept Andre Waugh at least under control a little bit, as hard as that is, because trust me, it starts getting away from my little French buddy, and you never know which route we're going to take. But it was a great night, great people. Got to sit and talk with a lot of people after, because Andre wouldn't leave the venue, and we had a 2-hour straight drive right down one road back to Regina. But great time, great people. Like I said, a lot of money raised, which was absolutely awesome, and can't wait to get back to that side of the country in a few months.
Can't wait to have you. Barney, thanks. Toodaloo. Enjoy the hockey trail, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, boys. Have a great show.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.